Well, right now, we're still in the middle of the pandemic. I really thought by this time it'd be over. The last pandemic lasted about a year and a half. We're now more than a year and a half into it. And with the whole variant, we're still in the middle of it. We had, the crash that you predicted in 2008, there was a government bailout for the banks, but not particularly for the people, which is what happened this time around. Now you've had multiple instances of not only stimulus checks going to people, but you also had the PPP loans that people don't have to pay back and so forth. You also have the moratorium on evictions. So there's a lot of people that haven't been paying rent this whole time. So you've thrown all this extra money into the monopoly board now for the last year and a half. And, I talked to people like jewelers that I know that said that their sales have been going through the roof. People that usually spend $200 are coming in buying $20,000 watches and so forth. And this has been going on for a while, but it's going to end sooner or later. At some point, there will be a last stimulus check. At some point, you have to pay your rent. And at some point, there will be no more PPP loans. After all that happens, as someone that's predicted the 2008 financial crisis, what do you think will happen in the long term?
Well, first of all, the greater problem isn't that those loans stop or that money stops, but that it continues because it's doing tremendous damage to the economy. This is an example, too, where two wrongs don't make a right. We never should have bailed out any of the banks. I said that at the time. Any banks that fail, were going to fail. They should have been allowed to fail. And investors, should have lost money. They should not have been bailed out. And the same thing with the COVID. The government should not have been bailing out anybody. Now, I think, but for the supplemental unemployment benefits and the PPP loans and the moratoriums on rents and student loans, the public wouldn't have stood for this. The public wouldn't have allowed the government to order them not to work if they were going to be without a paycheck. It was only because the government said, hey, you can stay home and we're going to pay you anyway. In fact, we're going to give you more money to stay home than we used to earn when you worked. So the public was, okay, that's a great deal. But that was a bad deal for the economy. And I think if we took a better approach, we would have had a more sensible response to COVID. Maybe we would have done what Sweden did, which I think was a much better approach than the one that we have. And we're just doubling down on these mistakes now. But yes, all this money printing is a huge problem. Prices have just started to go up. This is not transitory inflation. This is protracted inflation. It's going to be far worse than the 1970s. And by the way, these rent moratoriums, not only are these things completely unconstitutional, but this is going to lead to surging rents, particularly for lower income housing, because eventually these moratoriums are going to end. A lot of these people who haven't paid rent in a year are going to get evicted. A lot of these properties are no longer going to be on the rental market because the landlords are going to be too afraid to rent them out because it's too dangerous. They're going to try to maybe convert them into condos and sell them, or maybe they'll use them themselves or just put them on Airbnb for short-term rentals. But those lower income people who manage to find a landlord willing to take a chance and rent to them, they're going to jack these rents way up because the landlords are going to have to make up for all the rent they didn't collect and for the potential that the government's going to declare another moratorium and they're going to stop paying. So this is, again, an example. The government comes in and screws up the housing market. It's going to lead to much higher prices for affordable housing, making it unaffordable. And now the government's going to say, oh, look, there's no affordable housing. We need some new government program to deal with this, when it's the government program that created the problem in the first place.
Well, according to the internet, you have a net worth of $70 million. Is that accurate? Not so accurate?
It was accurate at the time because where they got that number was from my Senate filing in 2010. So I had to, file my financial disclosures. And at the time, I think that's what it was. So that was, over a decade ago. And yeah, the number would be quite a bit higher today. I don't need to really discuss what it is, but, I have made money over the last 10 years. and so I have a higher net worth now, but, nobody really knows, right? All this stuff on the internet, unless you own public assets, nobody really can estimate, what your net worth is. I mean, people don't know what are in my accounts. They don't know what's in my brokerage account, or they don't know how much gold I might have. And they certainly don't know how to value private businesses that I may own. So, people could just guess. And I think most of the net worths, when you're celebrity net worths, I don't know who's guessing this stuff. But I would imagine it's as accurate as the number they're using for me.
Right.
Because, that's what somebody found at some point on the internet, and, they've just used it.
Well, a final question before I let you go. For everyone who's watching this right now, if they have a $10,000 savings, this is their life savings, and they're trying to figure out what to do with it. If they were to go to you for financial advice, what would you tell them to do with that $10,000 right now?
Yeah, well, first of all, because of government regulation, no business could accept the account of somebody that only has $10,000. When I first got started, I would take a $10,000 account. I can't take it anymore because the government has made it so expensive to take a $10,000 account that you actually lose money on those accounts. So that's why the firms now have much higher minimums. You need 50,000, you need 250,000. So people have to do it themselves because the government has made it too expensive to get professional help. But, just, for the purposes of, a podcast, and, my mutual funds are available on a lot of platforms at discount brokers. The minimum is only $2,500. So people can actually go online and do some research. They can go to europacificfunds.com and look at my funds. But to the extent that you have $10,000 that you don't need for a while, right? If you think you may need the money, to pay your rent or to buy groceries, just, put it in the bank. Unfortunately, inflation is going to erode it away. But if you have a longer time horizon, if it really is, hey, I got this 10 grand and I don't need it, I want to invest it, then I agree with what you said earlier. For the long run, I like stocks. I think that, publicly traded stocks. Now, that doesn't mean I like stocks at any price. I think most stocks today are overpriced. And so people could end up losing a lot of money because they're overpaying. So I'm trying to find stocks that I think represent good investment values based on time-tested ways of measuring value. And so I find values outside the United States. I like the emerging markets. I like companies that pay really good dividends, commodity, focused companies now because I'm very bullish on that sector. And I want to get out of the dollar. So that's what I would encourage people to do, and not even think about, hey, how many dollars do I have? Because that's going to be a moving target as far as what those dollars are worth. What people have to be cognizant of is their purchasing power. I want to have a portfolio. I want to have an investment account, savings, that I can buy things in the future. I want to put my money aside now. I want it to grow. So later in the future, I can draw on that account to buy things that I really want, right? Because nobody wants stocks. You want what you can buy with the dividends that the stocks pay you, or with the capital gains that you'll get when you eventually sell the stock. So stocks or any investment are a means to an end. What we want is more consumer goods. There's two ways we can get more consumer goods. We can work, get a job and earn money, or we can invest our money and have our money work for us. So, but ultimately the goal is to get more money so you can buy more stuff. And so if you want to buy more stuff, it's your purchasing power. And that's why I think you got to stay away from the dollar, because the inflation tax, and that's really what inflation is, it's a tax. The way we're paying for all these new government programs is through money printing, i.e. inflation. And so everybody is going to get taxed. Everybody's savings, everybody's wages are going to be diminished in value to pay for all this new government spending. So to avoid that tax and to have a portfolio that grows in real terms so that your purchasing power is not only maintained, but enhanced, look to international stocks, and I think my mutual funds are a great way of doing it. You get professional management. I think we know what we're doing. We're picking, good companies that over the long run, I think are going to deliver superior returns. And they're also going to protect you from U.S. inflation and a weak dollar.
There you have it. Peter Schiff, truly appreciate you sharing your wisdom. As someone who's been doing it for a very long time, who has, a consistent track record of making money. I think that's really important. And, I'm 48 myself. You're 58 right now, if I'm right.
Yeah.
People like you and I, you've been doing it much longer than I have in terms of investment, but, I think the most important thing, what you've shown here, is that if you consistently invest, if you're not chasing after whatever get-rich-quick scheme is happening right now, if you have a clear head and look at what's happened in the past in terms of, tried and true, solid investing techniques, you could do very well over time. And I definitely appreciate you sharing all your knowledge here.
All right. My pleasure. Thanks for helping me spread the word.
No doubt. Take care.
All right.
Peace.